bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hi, friends. Hi, it's Monday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We do one thing and one thing only every single Monday night, whether we need it or not. We study. I teach you homeopathy. I teach you what I know. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joette Calabrese. And so I'm happy to have new people here at any time. And for those who do know me, hi, friends. I was watching as everyone was coming in, as I always do. It's so nice to see everyone. We've got someone. Let's see. I'm going to go up to the top and read where people are from. Yes, we're going to Mighty's tonight. We're going to be going to Mighty's Plus. That's, I think, at about 45 minutes from now. So if you're not a Mighty's Plus member, you might want to join because I'm going to be, we always have some fun things that we do. Hi, Bonnie from Michigan. Hi, Jackie from Roatan, Honduras. Oh, yeah, sometimes we cry. Yeah, I know why you put that in there, Harry. Thank you for saying that. Hi, Harry. Hi, Gina. Hi, Lynn from Los Angeles. And, yes, love him too. Kathy Voice, hello from Middle Tennessee. And Irene from Montreal. And Dolly from Pennsylvania. And Elizabeth, hi, Elizabeth, one of my students. Robin, hi, everyone. Harry again. Wonderful to see everyone. Topeka, Kansas is where Deborah's from, and South Florida. Hi, Susie Batzer. So great to see you. Howdy from Linda. I think it just moved too quickly from someplace in Orlando. Hi, Elizabeth, another student. So good to see you all, friends. Thanks for joining me. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have you in my life. It's really, it's a privilege and an honor to be your teacher, and I take it as a true responsibility, and I enjoy every minute of it because this is the kind of information that I can't keep quiet, right? And I know you feel the same way. For those of you who have been learning and using homeopathy for some time, you know how compelling it is to make sure that others know about it. Sometimes they don't want to hear about it. Sometimes we hold back. Sometimes we don't. Depends on our mood. Depends on how long that elevator ride is. So tonight we're going to talk about chickenpox because those of us who are here are all chickenpox survivors, at least if you're older than, I don't know, I'm going to say that came in what was it, the 70s? Maybe even the 80s that they started using that. And so before that time, we just survived it because it was a mild condition. It could be maddening at times, but it would resolve in a week or two. You might be left with some pock marks. I actually have one right here in my eyebrow that I was left with a scar because I probably scratched it too far, as I remember. But it was inconsequential. It was actually a badge of honor when I was growing up. Tell me, I'd like to hear from you. Was that a badge of honor for you? Yeah, I got I got chickenpox. Yep, and I had them in my mouth, or I had them on my scalp, or yeah, you don't want to know where I had mine. So, and it was something that we talked about when we got back to school and shared with everyone that we had the chickenpox, and then of course we had the evidence because we had pock marks on our faces and arms. And our legs. And in those days, we wore knee socks. So our knees would be covered with them too. So yeah, we're survivors of that. And so if anything, my friends, the fact that it's such a mild condition, it lends itself to the absurdity of getting, when we know that there's so many questionable aspects of using that method, that, I mean, why not just let the child get the illness and Bob's your uncle? We'll just call it a day. My daughter got chickenpox as a sophomore in college. The college infirmarians went crazy. Oh, yeah, well. But not all nurses are like that. I have to tell you, in our academy this year, just let me say parenthetically, We have so many nurses in this class of 2026. It blows my mind. We've always had nurses. We've always had doctors and naturopaths. We've always had chiropractors and physician's assistants and pharmacists. Farmers. A lot of military people. Moms, mostly moms and grandmothers. But this year we have an abundance of nurses. And I suppose there's a reason for that, right? The nurses are in the trenches. They all say the same thing to me. They always say, the reason I came to the academy, the reason I'm studying homeopathy now is because originally I went into nursing to help people, and that's not what I was allowed to do. All I could do was comfort them in their suffering, but I could not actually help them. Now I'm going to be able to help them. That's what I'm told time and again. Yeah, we had a chickenpox outbreak in my PT class, and boy, did the medical people freak out. We all had to get a titer. Oh, for crying out loud, I swear. Hi, Donna. Yeah, my husband got chickenpox at 40, and it was pretty uncomfortable for him. And at that time, was he 40? No, I was in his 30s because I didn't know enough homeopathy. I only was using botanicals, and it was a paltry effort. It was a flaccid effort. And he never took any meds for it, and it turned into, kind of a very painful. It turned very painful. Let's put it that way. Okay, so I'm looking in my repertory. This is Robin Murphy's 4th edition of the Meta Repertory. And so you needn't go here. You don't even need to own one, but I'm going to tell you that I'm on page 2127 for those of you who are interested. And so chickenpox are a varicella zoster is the other is the medical term for it. So if you hear it that way, varicella zoster, and then we have a list of chickenpox remedies for the what remedies have been known to address chickenpox. How do they know this? Well, because homeopathy's been around for over 200 years, and there have been many more homeopathic hospitals in this country than there were conventional hospitals up until about the 1940s. And many hospitals, many clinics, many doctors. And in the U.S. and in North America, homeopathy was very systematically destroyed. But not so in South America, India, many European countries, especially Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal. Shall I keep going? And of course, all of India. And just let me also say parenthetically, friends, that in case I haven't said this enough times because I think it's worthy of repeating, that homeopathy is the most used medicine on earth. More people use homeopathy, it's the second most used, I guess that's the best way to say it, use homeopathy more than the third level of medicine. So what do you suppose the first level of medicine is? What do you suppose is the medicine that is most used on this earth? It's only one ahead of homeopathy. Anyone have any ideas? I've said it so many times. I guess some people are going to know this, right? Let me see what we've got here. If anyone's got any ideas. Yeah, it's rather interesting. Chinese meds, you're right, Robin. Chinese, says Elizabeth. Vicky says Chinese, yes. Chinese medicine is the most used medicine on this earth. Now, is that because the U.S. embraces it? I don't think so. No, it's because China is a very large country. And they're very highly populated, and they use Chinese medicine there. Now, the second most used medicine is homeopathy, used all over the world by many more people than those who use the third common medicine, and that is the third most used medicine on earth are conventional drugs. Now, for those of you who might be new, you might find that absolutely absurd, right? How could that be? Well, that's because we live here, and we see every commercial, and we see every advertisement. They're on bulletin boards up on the highways, and you can't get away from it. We might be able to, though, things are moving in an interesting direction, aren't they? But at any rate, it's because of where we live. We are very, how do I say, homogeneous. We are we're very sheltered. And it's probably because we live in such a large country. Whereas in Europe, you go from France to Italy to Spain, and it's just a matter of a few hours. Hardly even that sometimes, depending on where you start. Whereas here, the only place we can go is Canada and Mexico, if you're going to drive, pretty much. So we are insulated from the rest of the world. So I'm going to tell you this is, homeopathy is very large all over the world, and I'm going to also go back to page 2127, and we're going to look at chickenpox and what the main medicines are. And I'm going to make this very easy for you. There are about 30, 40 remedies here. The most important ones are antimonium crude, pulsatilla, roostax, and sulfur. We have others that are important. Arsenicum is secondary, carboveg is secondary, belladonna, antimonium tart, dulcamara, ledum, mercurius. Those are also very important. Thuja, variolinum. Those are also important. But the most important, and how do we know they're the most important? Because they're bold and capped. And none of them are underlined, but they're bold and capped. Now I'm going to tell you that what we're saying here is that you can choose a medicine that is most commonly found to be useful for chickenpox. And more often than not, I find that it's either roostax or antimonium crude. That's my experience. Roostax and antimonium crude. And how I differentiate between the two is roostax, if you know anything about that gorgeous medicine, Rhus toxicodendron, roostax for short, it's excellent for restlessness and aches and pains in joints. But it's also great for itching and eruptions, and particularly eruptions such as chickenpox. Now, roostax is made from poison ivy. Oh, yes. They actually get poison ivy in the homeopathic pharmacies where they manufacture according to the FDA regulations. And yes, this is all legal. And they get it and they dilute it and succuss it and dilute it and succuss it and dilute it and succuss it. And at the end of the line, it is an excellent medicine for chickenpox. It's not an excellent medicine for poison ivy. People think that, well, if it's poison, wait a minute, if it's made, why can't we use? No, it doesn't work like that. No, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about homeopathy. Homeo means homonym or similar. Homeo. Pathy means pathology. Similar pathology. Not exact pathology. Similar pathology. So, we can also bring up the point that we also have a remedy here called a variolinum. And that's a secondary medicine. It's a second level to be considered. And so I'm going parenthetically here. I'm going off of the subject for a moment, but I will get back to our roostax. But variolinum is a second-tier medicine for chickenpox, and variolinum is a nosode. For those of you who are new, you might want to just look up the word nosode. I won't go into it too deeply, but why not just use variolinum since it's so keenly connected to the varicella zoster? Why not? Because it's exact. It doesn't mean we would never use it. It's just we wouldn't use it as a primary, the primary is the first medicine. We might use it as a second choice if the first doesn't act, or if the third one doesn't act. We still have that in our hip pocket. But we're going to start with my most favored medicines are antimonium crude and roostax. Now, roostax, as I said, restlessness. I'll tell you a story about somebody who called me years ago, and it was when I had a brick and mortar practice. It wasn't on Zoom or Skype. And someone called me on the phone, and this woman was frantic. She had 3 daughters. All 3 of them had chickenpox. And as she put each girl on the phone, I talked to each one of them. They were teenagers. One, I think the youngest was about 13, and the oldest was 19. I didn't even have to ask them, although I did just to confirm. whether or not they were feeling restless, because I could tell by the way they were talking on the phone that they were walking, and not just walking slowly as they spoke on the phone, but there was a rapidity to their walk. I sensed how fast they were walking. The first one, when she first started to talk to me, she was practically out of breath. She was walking so hard and so fast. Now, let me say that Roostox has that. So does our Arsenicum album have that. And our Arsenicum album is certainly a second-tier remedy to consider here. And I debated it with her. And so, but I decided, go ahead and take. The mother had a whole kit. She got off the phone. That first daughter got off the phone, and she went and took the Roostox right then and there while I was holding on the phone talking to the next daughter. Same thing. I could hear the restlessness and in her walk. The itching was enormous. The itching was maddening and extremely restless. Again, I considered arsenicum, but I was actually waiting to see what happened with the first daughter, because I knew that she was so intensely suffering at that moment in time that it wouldn't take long for the remedy to act. I mean, within a few minutes, I expected it to act. And so the second one I asked to hold on for a moment. And then I talked to the third one just to see if she was the same. And no, she was a little different, as I recall. It was a long time ago. But as I recall, she was weepy and needy, and she was clingy, and her stomach was bothering her, as well as having chickenpox. So it was easy to choose for her because I simply chose Pulsatilla. And I told the mom to give her Pulsatilla 30 every few hours. Actually, at that moment in time, I told her to give it to her every hour for the next few hours. So by that time, once we got that, and that was a good half an hour, I asked how the first daughter was doing, and she was already sitting down and calming down. The itching was still there, but it was no longer a screaming 10. It was about a 7. So then I said, let's go. Let me talk to the second daughter again. Let me see if I can make that decision. And I talked to her, and she sounded so much like her older sister that I decided to use Roostox for her too. But I was on the cusp. I was seriously thinking of arsenicum for her. I asked the questions that you're supposed to ask in order to determine whether or not it's one medicine over another. You want to be able to differentiate. And if you have your Materia Medica open at the time while you're differentiating between these top medicines, antimonium crude, Roostox, Pulsatilla, arsenicum, you've got them open, you're flipping back and forth, and you can eliminate them by saying, no, that doesn't fit. Okay, on to the next one. So I did ask, are you thirsty? Are you drinking? Do you drink water? No, I'm not thirsty. Arsenicum is thirsty, but they're thirsty for sips. They don't take a long drink. No, they take a short drink. And then they often put it down, and then another short drink. And that would have helped me differentiate between Roostox and arsenicum. But it didn't show up. And she was uncomfortable, but she wasn't anxious. Arsenicum album's often anxious. And I asked her about how it felt. Did it feel like it was burning at all? The site where the pustules were erupting. No burning. Arsenicum sometimes has burning. So I settled on Roostox for her too. And by the time I got to the mother, after I talked to all 3 of the daughters and determined what the medicines were, the mother was so thankful. She said, my God, thank you so much, because she was watching her daughters settle in. Her next question was, okay, so how often should I be giving these medicines to my daughters? The Roostox for the oldest, Roostox for the next one, and Pulsatilla for the youngest. And I said, well, if they need another dose before the hour is up, go ahead and do it. But you'll know. You'll know. It'll show up. So instead, she just gave it every hour. And then I said, once it's pretty clear after 2-3 doses that there's no concern remaining, at least not at this moment in time, then halt the use of the medicine and see what happens through the night. Let's see if we can get through the night with some good sleep. And then the next day, it's likely the medicines may need to be used again. I didn't hear from her for a while, which is so frustrating, I have to tell you, my friends, when I don't know what came of it, because I learn from each and every case. And so it's very useful to me to know, did it work? Did it not work? Did it need to be used more frequently? Was it fine after the first dose? Was it the third dose that did it, etc.? But I'd heard from her about a week later, and she said all 3 of those medicines were excellent. They were perfect. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you. And it was done. So people are asking, can you use a 200 potency? Yes, you may use a 200 potency, but you know what? The 30th potency works just as well, I believe. At least we start with that. And most homeopathy kits have a 30th potency and are in the 30th potency. And if you're going to buy your remedies from a health food store, Sprouts or something like that, then you're going to find that it's most likely going to be available in the 30th potency and not in a 200. Okay, yes, I used 30th potency in all 3 of them. I didn't use it. They used it because that's what they had. They had a kit. Yes, let's see what we've got. Let's see if we've got anyone that is... Joette, yes, I believe that we should purchase our kits that are manufactured directly from a pharmacy. So that's Boron from OHM Pharma, from Newton Pharmacy, from Hahnemann Pharmacy, from Washington Pharmacy. Yes, that's where I think you should be buying them. Although, having said that, I do say I do buy some of my medicines on Amazon. Sometimes I just don't wait until I can get them from other places. Amazon is so fast, I usually get the medicine within a day or so. So, how do you spell? Let me just tell you this. These words are phonetic because they're Latin. So, Rus, tox, Rus, R-H-U-S, and the second word is tox, T-O-X. Pulsatilla is just the way it sounds, P-U-L-S-A-T-I-L-L-A. What other ones did I just say? Did I tell you? Yes, we talked about antimonium crude, just the way it sounds. So, but try, if you write it out, it'll be corrected on the internet. I used Rus Tox 200C and then 1M this week for severe poison ivy breakout this week. Worked great. That was after 3 days of anacardium 30 with no improvement. So interesting, April. We always, I should not say that. We don't always start with anacardium. I always start with anacardium for poison ivy. But if it doesn't act, yes, that's what you do. It's exactly what you do. You go to the second tier. You're absolutely right. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Good to know that. So now let's talk about the fact that we've also got this variolinum here. And we've also got sulfur, which is bold. Now, what if these 2 don't act? What if any of those ones that I just mentioned, Rus Tox, antimonium crude, pulsatilla, those 3, and instead the person is so hot, they can't stand it. They just stay away from me. You're too warm. They have to have coolness on them. The itching is maddening. They have a voracious appetite. And they're sensitive to odors. Oh, the smell of the fish tonight. Oh, it was horrible. And the other medicines are not acting, then I would indeed consider sulfur, and I would use it in the same potency and use it in exactly the same fashion. But then we have this variolinum, which is the no-sode, which we rarely have to go to. But once in a great while, we get a case where someone has had chickenpox, and and these medicines perhaps acted but didn't act fully enough. Or they've never been well since that disease. Ever since chickenpox, they've never been right. Then we're going to consider variolinum. And that's a medicine that we can say, okay, it's stimulating the fact that this person suffered from chickenpox, and we can probably put it to rest. And when I use a no-sode, I use it in a 200C, and I only use it maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. Susie sees pulsatilla, weepy, clingy, tummy problems. Yes. Yep, that's right. Those are the key symptoms of pulsatilla, Jennifer was asking. But Jennifer, what I want you to do is to crack open your Materia Medica. If you have mine, use mine. If you don't, then go online and to get one that observe one that's free. Dr. Fatak, P-H-A-T-A-K, Dr. Fatak. If someone wants to write that down for me. Dr. Fatak, or Dr. Boricke, Boericke, Dr. Boricke. And those are homeopathic books that are free online. Okay. Yes, and yeah, you want to get your kits. All righty. What else do we have? Sulfur, says Harry. Yep. The other one was Thuya. Yeah, you're right. Thuya could be very useful too. Thuya is a good medicine, particularly that's a second level. Remember, that's not a first level. It's a second level. And the way you want to choose Thuya is if you see that not only is this person suffering from chickenpox, but they have other skin conditions. We're not talking about eczema. We're talking about, say, nevi or warts or that kind of thing. That could confirm it further. There are other aspects, urinary tract issues. I won't go into it all now. But the top ones are pretty obvious, and they usually act. It's pretty unusual that we have to go to a second one. Okay. Let's see. We have somebody, Carrie from Texas is differentiating for tumors. Okay, Jennifer in Illinois says, have Robin Murphy books. Just didn't hear what the girl had. Okay, so yeah, you have the Robin. Yeah, she had chickenpox. Okay. Let's see what else. Hi, Phoenicia. Oh, thank you, Phoenicia, for the link to Boricke, the free Boricke. Love when you help each other like that. It's really good stuff. Yes, Joette. Okay, yes, I didn't touch on antimonium crude. Antimonium crude is a really great medicine for skin conditions, period. We often use it mixed with arsenicum album, depending on the circumstance. But I like antimonium crude too because it also has all of the itching. It is, I don't find it to be as screaming a remedy as Rhus-Tox is, which has got that restlessness, or that pulsatilla has, which has got that clinginess and gut issues, or even sulfur that can't stand the heat. But antimonium crude is one of our main medicines for chickenpox, and I would use that in a 30 if the ones that I've just discussed just don't seem to fit. Nothing seems right. She's not clingy. He's not restless. She's not thirsty. There's no itch. There's no burning. There's they're not hot. Now what? Now what is antimonium crude? That's the way I look at it. Now, I am not telling you that that's the only way to look at this, but it is a hint as to how to begin looking at it. Let's put it that way. Because when I give you these hints on how to do it, I'm not telling you that it is an absolute. Because someone just said, I'll see if I can find her again, that she had poison ivy and she used anacardium, which is our number one remedy for poison ivy, and instead Rhus-Tox worked. Because there are always those, I would not call that an outlier. I would call it a differentiation that kind of pushes the primary remedy to a little bit more to the middle. All righty, let's see what else we've got here. Let me take a sip of water. So we're going to finish up actually now. My friends, if you're not a member of Mighty's Plus, do consider joining. And I also want to remind you to come back every week. You do, I know you do. Bring your friends. This is important work. I want you to learn this. It is our job to know this. I know that people don't believe that. They think it's someone else's job, but they're dead wrong. This is up to us to take care of our families. So we're going to say goodbye now to the general group, and I'm going to stay on with my Mighties.